we have a system of just talent coming through and through and through. I mean, there's about maybe 10 unlucky guys in this country who are so good, who can play in any other given team in the world, but because of our depth in what Rassie has created, they can't get the opportunity.
The bar has been raised, and that's why we sit here, we admire all week, and obviously that's what we're chasing. We want to get there as well.
All I wanted to do was to play for my country, was to play for that badge. And obviously it was a badge of honor. Every kid, whether what color you wanted to play for the Springboks, doesn't matter the circumstances.
DSPN is brought to you by Novus Glass, proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. The Special Olympics New Zealand National Summer Games is in Christchurch, Otautahi, this December. Across New Zealand, Aotearoa athletes, clubs, volunteers and families are getting ready, training, supporting each other and celebrating as the flame of hope travels down the country. Text Novus to 3598 to support our athletes. That's Novus, Novus, to 3598 to support our incredible athletes at the Special Olympics in Christchurch, Otautahi this December. Notice it, Novus it.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
Oh, he's done it again, Ricky Herbert.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN. Again, just such a privilege to have Breyton Paulse with us, who played 64 tests for the Boks between 1999 and 2007. A couple of World Cups in there. We've got lots to talk about. Thank you so much for joining us. And you've just come out of hospital. I want you to tell this story. So you had a crash on your mountain bike. How did this happen?
Oh, man. Martin, thanks for having me, first of all, on DSPN. And always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Thank you.
And let me tell you, it's been such a crazy couple of days. I literally started feeling myself again today. And just for the viewers and people obviously looking at us, I was doing a mountain bike race. It's called the Wines to Wales. And I know there's sometimes a few New Zealanders coming for that race. And people who wants to do it, is one of the most beautiful races. It's my 7th one, and I've never fell. But this time around, just about 25 km from the end, and not even on a technical side, I went on a very fast speed with my partner, and I hit a bump in the road. And African road is not for sissies. And boom, over the handlebars, Martin. The next time I woke up, I was in hospital. And the doctor said to me, Brady, you came away very unscathed. He said, you must have very hard bones, because my body is sore, my elbow, everything is sore, and I was in so much pain for the first 3 days, but I didn't break a bone. So I'm very, very blessed that I didn't break a bone, Martin. But yeah, on that note, I'm feeling much better, and thanks for asking.
Did you go for the compulsory HIA then in that case?
Thankfully on mountain biking, that's not compulsory, but the doctors check everything. They obviously, when you go into hospital, they check your blood pressure, they take all sorts of blood tests to make sure that everything is fine. And I was pretty fine, for a older rugby player, guy who just when we get older and we get busier, we don't really go to the gym as often. But I must say, I really love the passion of cycling. It really has, opened sort of new doors, and I've sort of made new friendships, and I really enjoy the sport. But sometimes I think I said to a mate today, maybe I was bound to be, because it hasn't happened to me in a very, very long time. So I'm very blessed.
Oh, we're so lucky to have you here, and lucky to have you here with us on the program as well, mate. Look, we've been talking all week about it, the stunning South African performance against France, and especially that second half. And when you attach that to the second half in Wellington against us, probably the two most impressive 40 minutes of rugby by any team all year. And I'm not just saying that. Look, it's not just winning the games, it's how those games have been won, how emphatic physically the team has been, and also going to the venues and playing away from home. South African rugby, the Springboks are on a real high at the moment, obviously.
You couldn't put it any better, Marty. It's such a good place. I think that at the moment, surely they must be oozing with a lot of confidence. It's for everybody to see, just the way they do it. And I can tell you now, I was speaking to Scout Berger, who also did the mountain bike race with me. We were there, and there was a whole lot of a rugby vibe, and South Africans and rugby and braai and all this kind of stuff. And me and Scout actually came to the conclusion that it was, the great Siya Kolisi's 100th test. It's a massive milestone.
Yeah.
And especially what this team has done the last 8 years or so, Martin, surely, if you are a neutral and you've seen what they've done the last couple of years, How can they not beat France in France because of Siya's massive milestone? With this Boks team, they take it very personal. They take a lot of stuff very personal. And that's why Rassie Erasmus gets the best out of them at any given day. He's got a way in aura and demeanor how he work with every player to get the best out of every player. And that's a very unique skill. And that's why coaches around the world, you might have the best players. You might have the best players, but you won't necessarily get out the best out of your players. Where in the world do you have a guy like Breyton Paulse sitting in the benches watching, team perform week in and week out? Because obviously with the help of, the wonderful Tony Brown, Rassie he's decided to play Tony Ball. We've been speaking about Tony Ball in South Africa, and now every kid as well is talking about Tony Ball. And it literally means that these guys want to have ball in hand at some point in the game, and it happens sometimes, mostly in the second half, when teams, really tire and they get a bit sluggish and they feel exhausted. And that's why the Boks, their physical conditioning is something else. The way they work is something else. And all that little detail, we had a session with Rassie as well, early in the year, all the broadcasters and commentators, and he explained to us, he gave us a little bit of insight on what he wants from players, and he calls it battle stats. And when he sees a player don't tick two of those boxes before halftime, he take them off. If you look at a guy like Boan Venter who came in, he scrummed well. He was doing all the right things, but Rassie wanted more. So that little detail, Martin, I don't think people understand what a massive impact that little detail with every player makes. And that's why 9 out of 10 times, him and his management team get it right. And I also got to say that, obviously, the man he's got the experience now. And to be a good coach as well, you got to be a good selector. I mean, Sasha Feinberg and Gomozulu, I can give you an example to say that in my time, and I'm not shy to say it, a guy like Sasha Feinberg and Gomozulu would never have given the chance at 21 years old, because he's got too much flair. He wants to play too much ball. He's that kind of player. He would have fit him into the New Zealand team sort of early and easy. But South African coaches tended to be very, very conservative. But Rassie has had a reason. There was method in the madness to get a guy like Tony Brown in and to say that, listen, we're going to have some setbacks. And they had some massive setbacks this year. Yeah. I mean, that game at Ellis Park against Wallabies was a massive eye-opener. It almost forced his hand. It almost forced his hand to bring in the younger players, the Sasha Feinberg and Gomozulus, the Caden Moody's, the Ethan Hookers. So now all of a sudden he has a scenario which he created. It's a hell of a monster where teams are so scared to play it against us. I mean, those French team, all the talk last week was about revenge and stuff. But deep down inside in South Africa, people weren't even scared. The young kids, the kids now 7, 8 year olds, they don't know, they actually cry when the Boks lose because they don't know what it's like when the Boks lose. They're so used to them winning at all times. And it's a wonderful place for the Springboks to be at the moment, Martin. And I tell you, I think it's a neutral, not just as a Boks fan, I think it's a neutral as well. You got to commend what Rassie has done the last couple of years. He really takes things personally, and he really understands that the culture of every player in the team, and he makes them tick. He takes emotion out of it completely when there's a game on the line. I mean, he took the great Siya off at halftime because he needed a line-on option in Ron Orkia. And, ultimately it won the game for him, and Siya was cheering the boys on. Everybody knows their role in their team. From 1 to 38, 37. And that's why they've been so successful, because there's no egos in their team, Martin. And it is very difficult in any sporting team with so many egos, in any corporate company for that matter. Yep. You have to control the egos. And this team, I can tell you, they are so united. They're a bunch of mates having fun. Go out and see it as a privilege, not as pressure.
The bar has been raised, and that's why we sit here, we admire all week, and obviously that's what we're chasing. We want to get there as well, and we have beaten you once this year, which is a good stake in the sand for us. But I said right at the beginning of the week, Breyton, there's no All Black fan in the world that is sitting there honestly saying that we're on the same level as the Springboks at the moment, because we're not, and you've got to sit back and you've got to applaud that. There's a lot to unpack there. I want to start with Siya Kolisi though, because after the World Cup final in both 2019 and 2023, it was a joy to behold, to watch from this distance what that win did for the country, just in terms of uniting. And you've got to remember, I'm old. I was there on the streets in 1981, and so have a kind of an understanding, I hope, of what it was like. Obviously not on the ground, but how the country has transformed, and just what the Springbok team meant back then, as opposed to what it means back now. That guy, the symbol of that unity. And I was stunned watching him on the sideline thinking, this is your 100th test, and we've just had Ardie Savea celebrate his, Cody Taylor celebrate his this year. The idea that you'd drag one of those guys during the game and that they would be happy about that, or that they would be in the kind of mood, the buoyancy that he displayed on the sideline, is just a really humble attitude. And I suppose my long-winded question is just, what does he mean to you, from you growing up and seeing now where he is and what he's been able to do? It just must be such the best thing that you've witnessed, I suppose, or one of the best things as far as the Springbok rugby team goes.
Yeah, Marty, it's been for me as well. Personally, for me, it's been absolutely special. I can tell you, I want to share a little story with you that's also very personal to me, and I haven't really shared it with a lot of people, maybe just my close friends. But I think the magnitude of Siya playing his 100th game for me, it is so personal, because when I was playing as well, you must remember when the Boks came into let's say unity, there was a lot of setbacks and a lot of fighting as to what will be the best way forward for the Springboks to make it representative for everybody.
The quotas and stuff,
and, yes, and the late, great Chester Williams, who happened to be a very good friend of mine, was absolutely instrumental in what we are seeing today with Siya and the likes. And my initial time with the Springboks, thankfully Chester was there. It was very tough for me, Marty. I was the only player of colour at the time when Chester and Tinus Lanier, who didn't play a lot, but he was part of the squad. But Chester was obviously kind of the face at the time for the, almost like so-called coloured people, back in the day. And I was, my first year or two, Martin, also I had to, when I went overseas, I had to answer a lot of political questions. Journalists were asking me, so Breyton, what's happening in South Africa? Is players of colour getting opportunities? Why is it taking so slow? Is apartheid still happening? All that kind of stuff. And I was getting fed up, because all I wanted to do was to play for my country, was to play for that badge. And obviously it was a badge of honor. Every kid, whether you what color, you wanted to play for the Springboks, doesn't matter the circumstances. And you know what? Me and Chester had a very deep conversation one day when we were in Wales, and we went for coffee on my off day, and I said to Chester, I wanted to talk to him about something, and he said to me, anytime, right? And Chester was a very quiet, humble guy, very similar like a Siya Kolisi. I mean, this guy was admired by everybody, white, black, colored, pink, whatever you want to call it. And he had massive impact in the country. So he was almost like the first guy to almost unite people who were never even looking at each other and greeting each other. And that's a massive impact that Chester Williams had. And I said to him, Jesse, I'm really getting fed up of all these political questions. I don't think I want to do this anymore, because it really is not why I play rugby. And he said, he looked at me, he was like thinking deep, and there was a moment of pause. And he said to me, you know what, Breyt, I understand where you're coming from. And unfortunately, this is a fight that, we as players of color need to fight until we're not there anymore. And I couldn't understand what he was meaning. And he said to me, it's not about you now. It's not about you. It's about the generations that are coming after us. And at the time, Martin, I was 21 years old, and I didn't understand what he meant.
It's a lot to process.
And over this time, it is a lot. Like this icon, this hero is playing with me, and he's giving me these words that I don't really grasp. I was so confused. And you know what, Marty? Obviously, years went by, and I started to get happy in the team, and I was playing regularly, and I was touring with a squad, and obviously people started idolizing me, so I had to do a lot of charity work and went to schools and went around the country to do my part for South Africa. And 2019 World Cup, I was doing work for SuperSport in studio, and for some weird reason, after semi-final, I said to the guys, listen, guys, I need to go to the final. I need to go to Japan to the final, because You were obviously playing Japan in the final, no, England in the final, I beg your pardon, and nobody gave us a chance. And so I got on the plane and I went to Japan. And Martin, I tell you, when Siya Kolisi and his team ran out on that field in front of almost 100,000 people, and I saw the team so well represented, the emotion took over for me as a fan. And to see the likes of Siya, Beast Mtawarira, Cheslin Colby, Lukanya Makazole Mapimpi, players of color, who didn't have to struggle like, the likes of me and Chester struggled. I'm not really an emotional guy, but tears just went down my eyes. And that moment, that's when I actually realized what Chester meant, telling me at the time, we need to think about the next generations. And I happened to be in the same hotel as the Boks earlier this year, and the youngster Grant Williams came to me. And you never understand the impact that you actually have on people when you're playing and when you're around the country and when you do what you do. And Grant Williams, very humble, soft-spoken guy. I don't think he actually realized how good he is, by the way. And he came to me and he said, "Breyton, thank you for what you have done." And you know what? That was so special for me, Martin. So what I'm trying to say is, we've come such a long way.
Yeah.
And Kolisi took it just to another level. He was almost God sent to South Africa in what he's done, what he's went through. I mean, this guy comes out of a township called Zwide, and at the moment he's probably the most loved rugby player in the world, in sports person in the world. You see the likes of Thierry Henry go and greet the man. Jürgen Klopp had a heartfelt message for him.
Yeah.
So the impact that this guy have, if he wants to, Martin, I tell you,
Go into
he
politics.
can stand
He could do it. He could.
He's
He could.
president of this country one day.
Yeah, he could.
And I tell you, he would easily win it, but I don't think he feels that's his purpose. But we are so happy to have had Siya up till now, and I'm sure he's going to go to the next World Cup. And we've been celebrating him for the last couple of years, and obviously with all the struggles that he's had to go through and overcome, and still being so humble, that to me is a testament of a character of a man that loves his people and loves his country.
And for those who are a bit younger, I'm just going to try and explain what 100 caps actually means. Like here in New Zealand, the first time that ever happened, it was a real milestone. And we've got, I think, 12 or 13, Lachlan, you might correct me on that. But because of the isolation for so long, you playing over 50 was a huge achievement. Any Springbok that got to 50 was a massive achievement. So to get somebody to 100... what it speaks of is it speaks of what everything that you've just said, Breyton. It actually speaks of a generation, and it speaks of a whole change of everything that had to happen for that to happen. So yeah, it's something that it's easy to get lost in the wash where he's got 100 caps. Oh well, everyone gets 100 caps these days. No, that's not how it is. This is actually a milestone that isn't just about 100 caps of rugby, as you've just so eloquently said, beautifully said.
Yeah. Yeah, this is different. Yeah, this is different. This is because, it was, I think 15 years ago, nobody even in South Africa would have think that the player of color, for instance, would get 200 caps. That was unheard of. And also, as far as I know, we only got 9 Centurions in this country, and I played with a few of them. I played with Percy Montgomery, Victor Metfield. I played with John Smith. I played with John de Villiers. I played with most of them, and we see us literally the 9th one to get 100 cap, together with his mate Ibn Etsabe, who's got the most caps now for South Africa. So this is pretty special. It is really a story of perseverance and never giving up, and just believe, and he was given an opportunity. He was given an opportunity by Rassie Erasmus, and Rassie Erasmus backed him from the start, and let me tell you, Marty, when Siya became the book captain, or when Rassie announced, it was, there were massive big eyes around the country. People were worrying, like, it was a massive brave call by Rassie. And a lot of people who don't know Siya and who don't know really rugby were like, what is going on here? They weren't very happy with that. And obviously years later, it's obviously easier to speak in hindsight, but that for me was a masterstroke by Rassie Erasmus, because Rassie and Siya, they've come a long way. He coached him at the Stormers, Western Province. He knows what the character's about. He knew what Siya had, and just the psyche of Rassie and how he deals with his players, and how he makes them believe that they are the best in what they do. It really is phenomenal. I mean, we had two dockies here in South Africa after 2 World Cups where we had was called Chasing the Sun. I'm sure maybe some of the people in New Zealand saw it. We had Chasing the Sun 1 and Chasing the Sun 2. Beautiful stories. I mean, I'm thinking of the story of Makazola Mapimpi, who in 2019, the boys played for the names on their jerseys and the jumpers. And when Rassie asked, Makazole, who is going to put on his jersey, he had nobody. He had no family, for instance. So those personal stories, Martin, it means so much to this team. It really means so much to this team. It also almost helped corporate South Africa to look at things differently, to almost like fast track and give people opportunity who shows potential and put a arm around them to say that, you can also do it because Siya's done it. Rugby is such a, as it's such a wonderful tool in this country. It really unites a country. Like the other sports are also big, but when it comes to rugby, everybody watch it. When you ask every second person in South Africa, what sport top will they have? It will be a rugby jersey. It really is unbelievable. And yes, we are lucky. We have some of the best schools in the world. We have a system of just talent coming through and through and through. I mean, there's about maybe 10 unlucky guys in this country who are so good, who can play in any other given team in the world. But because of our depth in what Rassie has created, they can't get the opportunity. So this is a special time, and yes, there will always be little setbacks and little stumbling blocks, but again, these guys, they always find a way. They always find a way to win. They always find a way to inspire, and we've come so accustomed to it that when Boks supporters, when the weekend comes, people are all over social media and they're just having a good time because they just feel this Boks team is unstoppable, and people pay money to go and watch them. Like they really go out of their way to support this team. It really is incredible.
Breyton Paulse is with us on the DSPN, and leave us a comment about this. We're going to pivot. We're going to talk now about specifically what we've been watching on the weekend and what you call Tony Ball and the influence of Tony Brown and the difference between when you were playing as well and the psyche of a Springbok side that, as you say, wants to use the ball, and these players want their hands on the ball. I love watching Siya play. I thought, and his post-match comments were great. Just him talking about, look, I just want to play for my country on a Saturday. And he echoed what you're saying, all in the same kind of headspace. Makes mistakes, wants to get the ball back, wants to have another go. Did some things wrong, missed some kicks. But my God, when that guy has got the ball in his hands, his heads-up play, I just think he's on a trajectory. I think if he continues at this talent level to get to where maybe a Dan Carter got to, because he's only 23 years old and he's got another decade in front of him. But just generally the way that you're playing, what do you see that Tony Brown has introduced? And do remember, let's go back to Ellis Park, where it didn't go well at all. And there's a fair few calls afterwards saying, look, we got to go back to, when I say we, you got to go back to doing what you're doing and know what you do well, as opposed to trying to fling the ball around and play that kind of style. But over the period of the season, we've seen it evolve. So obviously his influence is strong. You see him sitting there next to Rassie. Rassie's sitting here. Tony Brown is right there. They're chatting. They're in each other's ears. They've obviously got a great relationship, and a lot of trust has been built up. So just Tony's influence, what do you see when you're looking at it?
Yeah, it's a whole different team now. We obviously, I think previously it was always about suffocate and strangle people and bully people and kick and just tackle the living daylight out of people and then build scoreboard pressure, and that's how we won games. Yeah. But now Rassie, again, he's very innovative. He always tests the waters. He always test the limits as well of the rugby rules and laws around the world, always. As you can see with the 7-1 split and Andre Estes and
lineouts in the middle of the field.
Always innovative. So for me, again, getting Tony in now, you can clearly see. I looked at the stat after the rugby championship, and one stat it was very simple and for everybody to understand out there what's going on. They are evolving their attacking play dramatically and drastically. And the offload stat for me was twice as much last year after the rugby championship than this year than last year. And that to me tells you that Rassie and Tony and the guys have obviously now giving the players a little bit more freedom, not to go crazy, because let's face it, Ellis Park, they wanted to run every ball almost, and you can't do it. You got to find the balance, and I think they were working towards that balance. And obviously with a bit of with that game in hand or the game against Australia, they quickly understand that this is a process. It's going to take time because these players are also not all of them are used to just throwing the ball around and go and score tries. But now they found a way to almost like tire teams out in the first half, and in the second half it's almost like gloves off. And then when it's on, they have a go, and they're not scared to have a go. And that's why he always brings on a guy like Marty early, because Marty is probably one of our best attacking number 10s in the country, and his distribution skills are out of this world. So Tony has certainly, sort of transformed the narrative where the Boks were, like, let's say, a year ago. Very direct, very bullish, just want to scrum and maul all day. But now they still have that, and now they have the almost like the confidence to get the ball to Kurtley Arendses, to get the ball to Jetson Colby's, and make sure that guys like Sacha Feinberg and Gomazulu have a go when he wants to. Doesn't matter if he make mistakes. He has that strike power or firepower to change the game and to almost run the game if he wants, because he's been that good. He's going to make mistakes. As you said, he can become, can get to the level of a Dan Carter, but he's got so much ball about him, and people are really excited to see how far he can go. I think it's just, we really found his feet this year at that level, and I think it's just the beginning for him. And if he carries on like this and stay injury-free, he's certainly going to become a great in South African rugby.
What's your ceiling, Breyton? What is the ceiling for this team, do you think? Like, what are we going to see next year? Just because we've got this test series, obviously, at your place next year, which is massive for our two countries. Yeah. What are we going to see? How does this team evolve in the next just 12 months? Let's not go to the World Cup. That's 2 years away. Let's just talk about the next year even.
Yeah. I think the next year for Rassie is to manage his older players, his senior players, the likes of Siya Kolisi, Ibn Etzebeth, Andre Pollard, Jesse Creel. I would almost say the older statesman, because let's face it, Martin, at some point, like anything in life, sometimes your tank will run empty, and you're gonna need a lot of energy from the young guys, almost to lift those guys in those tough moments. They've been so good for this team, and obviously we are hoping that they will be fresh as can be for the next World Cup. But I think next year, the year before the World Cup, is going to be a testing year for Rassie, just because I feel that some of those older players are going to maybe just get a wee bit too slow. But in saying that, knowing Rassie, I think he's probably worked it out. He's probably understand that he needs to bring in young talent, and we've seen how many young guys he's brought in, whether he was forced with injuries or obviously losses because of the one we had against the Wallabies. But for me, managing those older players and those older statesmen in the team will be key, and then we take it from there. But at the moment, the squad is good. There's so many players coming through. We are at a healthy place. And let's. I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks as well, because we got Italy, and then we've got
Ireland.
In about 2 weeks' time, and so the year's not finished yet, and it's been a very interesting year, and I can't wait to see the boys going out again on Saturday.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Final question for you: you played under Nick Mallett, a brilliant coach, just a brilliant coach, and then Rudolph Strauler, who I used to love watching. It's a totally different guy. Jake White, a different guy again. Can you imagine what it would be like playing under Rassie? Would it be more like playing under Nick? I don't know. I'm just making an assumption there.
Yeah. No. I obviously played with Rassie for a very long time as well for the Springboks. So we had endless talks in the changing room, and some great times on tour and some not so great times when we obviously lost against the All Blacks. We hated losing against the All Blacks.
Yeah, of course.
But Rassie. But Rassie is a fantastic man manager. Nick was very strict. Jake also a very good manager. But I think Rassie's got the balance of all of them, where he will reward you if you play well. He will reward you if you understand the team dynamics and first be a good human, and then play. He doesn't like the people with a lot of ego. And that for him, it's very toxic. But he will reward you. Doesn't matter whether you're small or big. And by the way, he liked the smaller guys. I was in a podcast with Rassie, He invited me earlier this year and he said to me, Brady, geez, man, we need to find the next Jason Colby and Kent Allen, sir, because we love the small guys. They've been so good for him. But first of all, Rassie Erasmus, a wonderful guy and well respected by South Africans.
Well, as I said, we started, and this chat, and also because we've been looking back at the week, just in awe at that side and the performances that it has produced. At the same time, don't discount us. Don't. We love it when we're written off as well.
We will never do that.
As long as what we're hoping is that perhaps maybe the balloon gets a little too big, and then we're the ones that come along and prick it on the side.
Yeah, no, Marty, I tell you already there's talk about the greatest rivalry next year when you guys coming to South Africa.
Yep.
We can't wait, and I think that you and Lucky are also welcome in South Africa next week.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Yeah, we're trying to get there. Yeah, we're trying to get there. Yeah, the question is just about your last test in Christchurch, because your last test was against us.
Oh, horrible. Yeah, horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I have to say, I love Christchurch as a city, but I haven't had much success there, so... it wasn't a good way to bow out, but, always being respectful of the All Blacks. And, as a rugby fan as well, I want the All Blacks to be good again. I want them to be, you can see there's signs of them improving. There's signs of the character that we've seen a couple of years back. And I can see that, Scott Robertson, coach, he's trying really, really hard to get this team back on track. So I wish you guys well. I think you guys got a tough one this weekend against England.
Yeah, real tough. Yeah. This is going to be a big test for our season. This is really important game. This
absolutely.
is. Yeah.
I think it's going to be defining. So as a neutral, I really love the All Blacks too, and I want them to do well.
Always a pleasure, my friend, and we loved you as a player. You've given us so much time. We appreciate you so much. Looking forward to catching up again, and I'm glad that you're okay. You're out of hospital and you're well. When are you back on your bike?
Oh, thank you. Marty, it's going to be a couple of weeks, but hey, man, I need a break as well. So I'll take it easy and recover well.
Huge thank you to Novus Glass for sponsoring this episode of the DSPN and for being a proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. This December, over 1,200 incredible athletes, along with hundreds of volunteers, coaches and other support staff, will be making their way to Christchurch or Tautahi for the Special Olympics New Zealand 2025 National Summer Games. Novus Glass is proud to be supporting something special, and you can help support the athletes too by texting Novus to 3598. That's Novus, Novus 3598. Thanks again, Novus Glass, for supporting us here on the DSPN. Windscreen, crack or chip, notice it, Novus it.
DSPN.